Drag racing fan, Monday morning racer here. Thank you once again for tuning in, being ready to watch the show. I think we got a great show tonight. I'm going to bring up the show card. We're going to talk a little bit of PDRA for sure. We're going to talk a little bit of NHRA drag racing for sure. We're going to talk with this guy, Doug Foley, my boss in the Top Fuel ranks. Been working for him all season long at the races that they have attended and behind the scenes. Definitely looking forward to talking to Doug. Big news from him that's already been announced that definitely we want to dive in on and kind of even get a preview possibly of 2022 with him, get his thoughts on the schedule that just dropped. We'll be talking about that in a few moments. And while I have the card up, let me also say this. Please hit the share button, hit the like button. I've got to do that right now. I've got to do that right now to, well, a lot of places, to my personal page. Yeah, do that for me to your own personal page. I've got to do it to Competition Plus and let the fine folks over there in the drag racing world know that Monday Morning Racer is live. Also, I've got to share to the Foley Lewis Racing page. And last but not least, Doug Foley's Athletes page as well. Boom, got them all shared. Boom, back on the screen. I know that might not be any prettier of a sight having me on screen. Nonetheless, thank you for watching Between the Slicks. I like to say the most diverse drag racing show that there is because no one else is talking NHRA drag racing to the Southeast Gasser Association, PDRA to Funny Car Chaos. We do that right here. Let's go to the comment section really quick. Sam Heisen says, hey, man, Sam, good to meet you at the track. Enjoyed the chat that I had with you and your dad, the rest of your family, and tell the gal that was wearing the Cracker Barrel hat, good taste. But, man, good to see you at Maple Grove. Thank you for your support. And, folks, if you see me at the track, would love to talk to you. I may be busy. I may have to tell you, let me come right back. But I would love to talk to you. It was great to talk with Jacob. I had an individual comment on one of my Pro Stock videos and say, hey, I saw you in the pits. Like, man, I love getting those comments, and yet at the same time, I hate getting those comments because I'm like, you didn't stop me. Stop me. Would love to chat. Would love to hear how you found Monday Morning Racer. Tom chiming in from Jonesville, South Carolina. Jeffrey Beck. Can I get a shout out? Jeffrey, thank you for watching Between the Slicks with yours truly, the Monday Morning Racer. And I like looks like in the icon, you got a bandolero there. Where do you race, man? Drop that in. Stan, hello, MMR. Hello, Stan. Stan, the 2022 schedule dropped. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. And like I told you, man, I said it on Competition Plus Power Hour. I think I even have said it here. Most of the time, the NHRA waits to drop their schedule after NASCAR. NASCAR, being the leading American motorsport that it is, whether you like it or not, they kind of set the tone. That schedule dropped yesterday, I believe it was. Now NHRA drops their schedule, their complete full schedule. Top Fuel 173. Hello to you, man. American Hot Rod Entertainment. Yo, I like my yos. Great to have you watching as well, Darren. I think Darren's got some type of watch-along happening. Put that in the comment section, Darren, American Hot Rod Entertainment, when that will be happening. And I think he just messaged me that I am invited to watch that particular 1986 Reading event. That was a great event. I watched 1986 VHS a lot. Loved 1986 in the year of drag racing. Mark Oswald and Kenny Bernstein and Don Garlett's doing his thing in Top Fuel and Daryl Gwynn just coming on the scene and Bob Glidden from the wreck all the way to his championship run. And I think at Reading there was this epic run between Oswald and Bernstein, I think in the final, if I remember correctly. Anyway, 1986 was a great year for drag racing, but definitely Darren dropped that information in the chat. River Rat, Howdy, howdy from Hopewell, Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. I like the River Rat. I like that. Jeffrey Beck. I race at Summer Shootout. Shout out the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm running Winter Shootout in December. Cool, man. Running on the quarter mile there at Charlotte. I like that, man. Thank you. Stan says he's already booked the 4-wide for 2022. Cool, man. Cool deal. Las Vegas, great place to check a race. And I'm going to race at Wake County next summer. Wake County, just down the road from me here in Roxborough, North Carolina. Wake County is. Cool deal, Jeffrey. Will you keep getting up on the wheel and doing the best you can in that Bandolero and moving on up? Hey, talk to the folks. Maybe get a junior dragster. Do drag racing and circle track racing. All right. Stan, do you think Wes Buck could stop the monologue? Stan. Oh, wow. No, chill, Stan. Do you think Wes Buck could stop the monologue questions? Each question he asks is 3 to 5 minutes. Wow. Stan, let me say this, Stan. I think it may be challenging, and I've seen this with other individuals. I think of Randy Pettit, racing's greatest showman. He's the announcer at Bowman Gray. I've helped him with his YouTube channel, Rattling the Roll Cage, and he has even admitted, he's even learned that it's different being out front of 15,000 people compared to doing an interview and you're on camera. And I think maybe for Wes, there might have to be a little bit of a transition period to go from, remember, the Wes Buck Show in the past, way in the past, because the Wes Buck Show has many more episodes than Competition Plus Power Hour and Between the Slicks and Hot Rod Entertainment's, Outlaw Entertainment's Out of the Groove. It's been around a while, but it has been like Wes just talking to an audience and talking drag racing to people asking questions. So that has changed. That dynamic has changed. So, he might just have to say, hey, I might need to, tweak a few things. My thoughts in interviewing has always been, I want you to learn more about the person interviewed than the interviewee. Sure, the one doing the interview can have personality. They can come off within it. I believe there can be humor. I believe there can be serious moments. I think there need to be sharp questions. I think there need to be some layups. But I've always wanted there to be more word count from the person being interviewed than myself. That's what I try to do. But look, I love what Wes Buck is doing for all of drag racing. I love how they have switched up the Wes Buck Show, and it is really diving into drag racing in depth. And I have to take some credit. Sam's got to take some credit with the Competition Plus Power Hour. That ball, that needle for drag racing content got moved a bit. But what I'm trying to say is when you go from you were the only person on screen and you are answering questions and there's no one else to interact with, or you're the only person on the podcast, and you transition to having more people on screen and doing more interviews, it can be a tough transition. What you're talking about is question setup. And I think a lot of folks can be a little bit long-winded in setup question. Granted, I feel like at times maybe I don't have enough setup, and it's just personality coming across. But Wes does a great job. Love the magazine. And I want to say this too. I got the opportunity. Wes has always been very kind to me, and I am a nobody, and even less at the platform that I have now. Before Competition Plus Power Hour, before this very show, he's always been very kind to me. He's been encouraging. And Wes is a good dude out there in the media world. There are people in the media world that still have not said anything to me, and I find that fascinating. I mean, we're all out there. We know each other. I find it funny. I find it funny. All right, let's continue here. Oh, Mike, good evening from Texas. American Hot Rod Entertainment. He chimes in, doing a live watch along of the 1989. Oh, 89. That was another good race. 86 was great, though, too. 89 Keystone Nationals from Reading featuring Dave W. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is a YouTube channel. Has a lot of great old footage. And hopefully, Lee, everyone is welcome. So, yes, when I'm done with Between the Slicks, I plan on hopping over there. You can follow me. That's American Hot Rod Entertainment on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to his channel, you definitely need to do that. Zachary from upstate New York. No prep in Rochester, New York. Awesome, man. Hey, I remember the 585 race war scene. Love what happens over there at Lancaster. Got start in that area doing all of this. Jeffrey, Randy Pettit got me watching your channel a lot. Okay, great. Yeah, I was helping out Randy a good bit, and Randy being the lead announcer at Bowman Gray, doing some great things, and he's got a good channel, and hope he continues to go with it. Stan chimes in, don't get me wrong, I like West Buck, but the length of his questions could be painful. I would drift off if he asked me those questions. He'll work it out, Stan. He'll work it out. I know he realized he was getting some whacks in the last episode, so I'm sure he will be working for sure. Sorry, no more 585. Yes, I know that. I don't care to get into the drama of it all, but yes, I understand that is no more. Stan, MMR, are you going to be at the Shakedown? No, I will not be at the Shakedown Nationals. I will be at the Carolina Nationals. Doug Foley, his team will be there, and Strutmaster team, so I will be at the Carolina Nationals assisting those teams, Foley, Lewis Racing in particular, and that looking forward to it. The Carolina Nationals is important to me. It was like my second time ever with Paul Richards Racing, volunteering. I got an opportunity to kind of work near a team, and there's an undercover video on my YouTube channel from that weekend. It's a longer, more in-depth version of another undercover video. It's about an hour and a half long. So if you want to get a good behind-the-scenes glimpse of what it's like in the funny car pits, check that video out later on. Top Fuel 173 found MMR from the Pro Stock video. Now, everybody, I said Pro Stock video earlier. You got Top Fuel 173 here saying Pro Stock video. What are we referring to? Well, in the MMR nomenclature, Pro Stock video refers to a video which I entitled, Will NHRA Pro Stock Survive? I love Pro Stock. Have always loved Pro Stock. When I thought of myself drag racing, I thought of myself like Bob Glidden, pulling all those levers. I mean, that's just drag racing, in my opinion. That's what I think about. So when I did that video, it didn't look like NHRA Pro Stock was going to continue to move forward. It didn't look like NHRA Pro Stock was going to survive, in fact. Granted, the people involved have done a great job, and it has been the healthiest class that NHRA really has right now. With that said, that video still holds true to me. There are elements that I would still love to see changed, and I think many of you watching would probably feel the same, and that's I still want them to look like the actual cars, and you can't tell me it can't be done when you see some of these beautiful no-prep rides and some of these beautiful pro street rides that look exactly like their OEM counterpart. But yes, the Pro Stock video that we're referring to is, Will NHRA Pro Stock Survive? I need to do a part two. I need to do that eventually. Folks, let's look at some news. Thank you all for putting those questions in. Thank you all for watching. Motor Racing Press, greetings from Michigan. Guys, Motor Racing Press, Facebook, Twitter, the website. Check them out. If you want to stay up to date on all the NHRA press releases and from other motorsports as well, Motor Racing Press, give them a like, follow on Facebook, definitely Twitter. You're going to be able to get a lot of great news from Motor Racing Press. Speaking of news, that dropped. The 2022 NHRA schedule. It dropped today. I saw a sneak peek of it. Jeff Arend was releasing things before he probably should have, but no, that seems like Jeff. God bless Jeff. And saw a glimpse of it before it was released on the NHRA.com or anywhere else. Let's take a look at the schedule. Now, I do not have a graphic to pull up, but I'm going to look at the schedule, and I just want your thoughts. Go ahead and chime in, put your thoughts in the comments section, and let's see what you think about it. One, overall, 22 race schedule. I think a lot of teams are breathing a little easier about that instead of the 24 or even 26. I asked one general manager here recently, and we'll talk with Doug about this, and I know some of his thoughts already. One general manager of one particular funny car team said that they would actually like the races to be 19 national events. Wow. Not 20, not 22. I mean, still have a 1 in front of the digit. So 22 races. The Winter Nationals are scheduled as they should be to be the Winter Nationals. And again, this year's move was because of COVID. You got to remember that. This year's move was because of COVID. Then they go right to Phoenix. So Phoenix is back on the schedule. And you have a market that I think we've got to keep in play. It's a great growing market. More people keep moving there. More businesses keep moving there. I think we've got to keep that market. And I know the long-term plans of that particular property, drag racing there may very well be in jeopardy. But there's ways, there's time, I think, to figure out how to keep that market in play. You have the Gator Nationals, March, once again, third race of the season, first East Coast event. Traditionally, that's how it works out. Moving on, notice last event for Houston, April 22nd through the 24th. Then the Virginia Nationals. The Virginia Nationals, they are taking kind of the traditional spot of the Southern Nationals. And I want to say this. Until we have a race again that's in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, I don't really care for anything to have the moniker of the Southern Nationals. Until we have somewhere in the deep South, as it were, as a race, not interested in anything having the Southern Nationals as its moniker. So the Virginia Nationals kind of take up the spot of the Southern Nationals. And notice as well, I think the schedule, I think a lot of the teams should see this as a favorable schedule. It's going to be interesting to chat with people this very weekend at the Carolina Nationals, because there's only 2-3 back-to-back scenarios, and it looks like you've got many little tours. For example, you've got the Winter Nationals, Phoenix, and then it's East Coast, and then you've got like 2 East Coast and then 2 West Coast. So I think that is going to work out. Notice Bristol is not a countdown race next year. It's back toward its Father's Day traditional event. And I think that's really the most notable things. It really looks normal, other than some places missing. Obviously, Atlanta's been sold. We understand there's issues with Joliet, and it's still rumored that Tulsa may be announced. Who knows? Let me go into some of the comments here on the schedule. Stan says, NASCAR 39 races, NHRA 22 races, NASCAR travel logistics makes NHRA look rational. Again, it's 2 completely different animals right now. And when you start going into the other classes, what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, just completely different animals, even per class. Pro mods asking different things and pro stock and so on. Well, yes, Waterbug Winter Nationals is the first race again. They would have been this year. Again, that was a COVID change. No Chicago. Yes, no update on that. That's not looking good for either the oval or the drag strip. Death Trap Hot Rod says, I like the schedule. Overall, just looking at it now, I don't see anything that is surprising or shocking. Definitely looking forward to getting Doug's thoughts on it and seeing what he's got to think about the schedule. Just happy Monday Racing retired to Indy. Thanks for the props, by the way. The U.S. Nationals will be traditional, we can say. So having that back and certainly more runs and everything that I've heard is like 2022, we're looking at, really getting back to normal. And we can kind of see that starting up even in Texas. Stan, Pomona and Charlotte should only have one race each. I understand that argument. I'm going to be putting out, hopefully, I need to get it done within the next 2-3 weeks, the ideal NHRA schedule, or at least my thoughts on it. I think there's some other markets we could go to. I think there's a way to have 20 races, have the same tracks, and yet still add tracks. I do. I personally don't think Pomona should end the season, and it has not always traditionally been the season-ending race. At one time, it was Ontario. It's been at other places when it wasn't Ontario. I think it would be cool that the NHRA ended in Vegas, and you have all your championship stuff roll right into SEMA. I think that'd be pretty cool, and I think that could work out. Who knows? But yes, be on the lookout for the ideal NHRA schedule from Monday Morning Racer. Top Fuel 173. I can't stand tracks that get 2 races. Like, why just a waste of money? I get it, man. And look, you've already saturated that market, and it's like this weekend. This weekend is going to be interesting to see what the crowd is going to look like. I don't think ZMAX has ever sold out. There's a lot of grandstands, for one. You're in NASCAR country. I expect a good turnout. But look, you've got a Carolina Panthers game this weekend, and you also have not too far up the road NASCAR Thursday, Friday, Saturday with one of the most popular events in motorsports throughout America, and that's the Bristol Night Race. So the turnout on Sunday, I'm going to have my eyes peeled. I'm definitely looking to see what it's going to be like. Not to mention college football has started back out. Look, in the South, college football, folks. Whew, college football is important. I think this would be a great opportunity. The NHRA will have some forward thinking and find some influencers. Maybe they're even NASCAR influencers, NASCAR YouTubers, which have big fan bases. Some of them do, and say, "Hey, we'll help you get to the NASCAR race if you come to our race from so Saturday night, they're at Bristol. They shoot over to Charlotte for the drag race, and then they give their honest opinion and compare the two. And if you're talking about someone who has never been to an NHRA drag race, and that's many of the NASCAR YouTubers, I guarantee when they experience NHRA drag racing, they're going to have a whole more favorable opinion about it than even the Bristol Night Race, I think, because drag racing is one of those things. It has not failed me yet. When I bring someone to the track the first time, they're like, wow, I didn't know it was like this. I experienced that in Maple Grove. So Foley Lewis Racing had some hospitality and chit-chatting with folks. There were people there that had seen drag racing, but they'd never seen NHRA professional drag racing with Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock. And after round 1, they come back to the hospitality like, dude, that was insane. That was wild. We've never seen anything like that in our lives. And that's what the typical reaction is. That's what the typical reaction is. All right, let me get to a few more comments here. Having Topeka in the middle of August is crazy. They go very lucky with the weather this year. It has traditionally been a race of there can be some insane weather, definitely heat elsewhere. Sam with a novel. Let me get through this. I think that the schedule looks good. It looks like there will be more time off than this year. That's always good for the teams, although I would like to see the season get more steam going sooner. Like you've said many times, a 18 race schedule is the best option. Again, there's one general manager out there that wants 19. Have you heard of anything on Circuit of the Americas building a drag strip other than from Alexis DeJoria? I have not heard anything else. But hey, I know she's got good contacts, so I think we can listen to her. That they are interested. That would be a great market to move to after Houston. That would be great to add to the schedule since we are losing Baytown, as you mentioned, and I just said. There you go, folks. We're getting near to having Doug Foley on. I want to switch very quickly and mention some PDRA news, and that is that some female racers are on the move in the PDRA. So Amber Franklin, the daughter of the big chief over there at the PDRA, the daughter of Tommy Franklin, she got behind the wheel of the Jungle Rat, one of the best pro mods out there in the nitrous combination, and they have put it into a 632 configuration. She is stepping up, as she did from junior dragsters, into top dragster, now going door slammer racing in the 632 class. And also, Camry Caruso, who has been competing in 632, has announced that she intends eventually to make it into Mountain Motor Pro Stock. She now has her NHRA Pro Stock license as well. So we could be seeing someone else in the NHRA ranks that is a lady in Pro Stock. Some cool things happening over there in the PDRA and some ladies moving up. Well, very quickly, let me go through the comments one more time. Darrell, he says, will you be in St. Louis? I'm on the fence right now. Maybe. But I might go Southeast Gasser Association, Knoxville, Tennessee, if Quayne will allow me. We'll see. Every race fan should get to a NHRA race. I completely agree. NASCAR, no comparison to NHRA. Look, I'm a NASCAR fan, but they're two completely different animals. And yes, there is no comparison. I do like what Alan Reinhart says when he says these cars that are way too fast to turn left or right. But hopefully they do make the turn off the track, and they're slow enough at that point. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a break, and right after the break, we're going to have Doug Foley on and chat with him. We'll chat with him about the schedule, the announcement made earlier this week, and I can give you all the good behind-the-scenes goodies that he might not want me to give because I work so closely with him. So let's take a break right now. Hear a word from Power Built Tools, and we'll have Doug right on after that. Power Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. Doug!
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good enough. Just wanted to make sure.
Awesome, man. Well, this is a cool moment because it means that you still like me a little bit to come on my own show again after 1 year of working with you. And look, before we go any further, man, this is only the second time I've had you on my show. You were actually one of the first guests. You were on the second episode with Dan Fletcher way back. And over a year's worth of content. Look, let me say, I appreciate the opportunity you've given me and helping me step up a little further in this gig in NHRA professional drag racing. So, man, thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
We appreciate the relationship. And let me tell you, for somebody like yourself who has totally different perspective on things compared to some of the other people we could have hired to represent the team, it's bright, it's fresh. You have a different outlook on things, and I think that's a huge advantage to our team.
You notice, folks, he stumbled there and said different look because
Yeah, because he wants me to wear sunglasses all the time I do interviews.
Oh, Doug, look, let's dive right into it. I know that the NHRA schedule dropped today. I know you're going to have some good thoughts. So give us your perspective being co-owner of a team and driver of this NHRA 2022 schedule, man.
I like it. I think we're going in the right direction. And, most people would look at the fact, I was obviously listening to you prior. I think we definitely need to reduce the amount of races. It's just something that has to happen when you're running into a situation where the sponsorship levels are dropping, the availability of those relationships have been reduced. And, the easiest way to fix it, unfortunately, is to reduce the schedule and give people the ability to kind of balance out the dollars.
So, Doug, with the schedule we've got, we obviously know that we're going to lose Baytown there, Houston. What are some markets that you would like to see added if we could work out still having like 20 or less races? Where are some places possibly that the NHRA could go that you would like to see?
Well, that's a good question. First, I'll start with what you were talking about earlier is, in my opinion, there's absolutely no reason for Vegas to have a spring race. It is, if we truly look to reduce expenses and try and help these teams out, going across the country for one race is not necessary. It just isn't. And if you look at it, it's a race that if you watch the fall one, like you were saying, around the SEMA show, they have to add in that secondary set of grandstands to accommodate the crowd on the October event. So if you can eliminate an entire side of the grandstands in the April race, it probably means that event doesn't need to be there. So I would say is that one should go away. And I think I also agree with you on ending the season in Vegas. I think with the SEMA relationship, you can't beat Vegas, no doubt about it. It's a great place to have banquets. It's a great place to just enjoy life. And, so, and cars run really fast there. So I truly believe that ending the season there is a good idea. But what markets? That's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of places around that, one of the downsides we look at was when we went to Epping and they decided they were going to go to Epping. Epping was always considered more of a IHRA style track, meaning that their facility wasn't as updated as some of the NHRA facilities. And so when NHRA started looking that direction, they had reduced what they had basically required as a base level for what was needed to make a national event facility. And unfortunately, nobody's building ZMAX dragways anymore, at least not for the most part. So the ability to have these top level tracks have been reduced. And with that the case, so I think we just have to look at places that are smaller. I mean, one of my favorite tracks, I don't know if a lot of people have been there or not, but Martin, Michigan, beautiful track. It fits perfect for what we're doing. Yes, it's not going to be a track that you're going to go and you're going to put, 20 top fuel cars and 20 funny cars and pro mod and pro stock and all that. But it's a track that, with the amount of crowds that we're getting, I think would be a perfect facility for something like we're doing right now. They're great people. They work hard to generate the crowd that they have. So that's a place that I always wish we could go back to. It's a great IHRA track, and I think it would actually be a great addition on the NHRA side.
Well, with knowing now that I have such a great idea of ending the season in Vegas, and I think it fits. Like, look, Pomona, it's got the history. I get that, but it needs updates. It is not a premier facility anymore. And the climate, business-wise and political-wise, that is Southern California. I think that plays in as well. And you look at Vegas, you've got this beautiful track. You've got all the amenities that Vegas has. I mean, I just think it would give the NHRA something that no other motorsport has and put it on that platform at SEMA, so many eyeballs, and say, here are the world champions being crowned. And, maybe even it's almost a speed week. Like maybe they don't lose their 4-wide date. I don't mean the final race being a 4-wide, but maybe that all-star race happens that weekend or something. Right. From, all the people that year, and you have that much more value to that weekend.
You do have a tremendous amount of value. And the thing is we usually don't get that opportunity to have, look at all the companies that are in town prepping their booths and doing all this stuff, and internationally, not even just, so it's a great opportunity to expose our brand and our product to, different people that normally wouldn't get to attend one of these events. And so I think you look at that. I'm 100% behind you there. Sometimes we look at nostalgia stuff, in my opinion, a little too hard, even though it's the birthplace of NHRA and, so all those things that have happened, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. And history will never change it. But at the same time for a company and a sanctioning body to evolve, sometimes maybe it does mean looking at different markets. Myself and Tim sat down with Glenn Cromwell a couple of days ago, and we discussed the fact of how many races there were, and maybe putting a little bit more focus on the fact of maybe we make these races, I don't know, maybe adding some other items to the show that may generate maybe a younger audience and bring some additional people in, and put more focus on the quality of the show. Not that there's anything wrong with it as far as what we're offering, but maybe some new additions or something that'll just, spice it up a little bit. But at the same time, Pro Mod, just a great category. But if we were able to do that and just put a little more emphasis on trying to grow the attendance in the shows that we currently have instead of adding more, I think is, I think 18 is the magic number. I really do. And I think, I think as we lose places like Houston that have a lot of history, it is what it is. The value of real estate these days, that's the business that myself and Tim are in. And with the value of real estate changing every day, you're going to lose tracks. There's no doubt about it. They're getting older. Some of the ownership is getting older. And with that, the case is, they're looking to exit. And it's a little bit more difficult to sell these tracks as a racetrack than it is to sell it for the value of the land.
Doug, regularly with the social media and handling it for Foley Lewis Racing, I see the question, are you going to this race? Are you going to this race? Are you going to this race? And I think the average fan just doesn't get that it takes a whole lot to get to these races. So explain to folks why Foley Lewis Racing right now is one of these super part-time teams that shows up, can be a threat, but not at the track every national event, even though there's that desire. Why is it like that right now for Foley Lewis Racing, for like TJ Zizzo, for so many others in NHRA drag racing?
Well, one thing they have to look at, first of all, is I know it's a sport to our fans. To us, it's a business. It's no different than, like I says, our real estate business, development, construction. It's no different. There's a budget that's typically, for the most part, determined in the beginning part of the year. And then obviously we try to bring marketing partners in to try and increase those numbers, which expand our schedule, hopefully. But at the same time, it's just something that it's a predetermined schedule for the most part. And we pretty much know within a couple $1,000s what each race cost us. And so we go out, we run those races, we try to be as competitive as possible. At times you may be fortunate and bring some different partners on that help you out financially and gain some there. But You just can't, if you literally just fire the truck and trailer up and go to any random race you want to without putting some common sense to it and some balance sheet to it, you're going to be in trouble. So we can't overspend. We have to be smart about it. And this was, exactly where we ended up right now with our, announcement this week is we looked at our performance. We looked at how much we spent. We looked at everything we did. We did have some carnage this year in parts, which was unusual for a team that wasn't running as good as we really would have loved to. So it was time for us to, myself and Tim, sit down and try and figure out what's the move. It's not always just financially. We do this because we love the sport. We have a passion for it. You mentioned TJ Zizzo. That's a family that has probably as much, if not more, passion towards the sport than we do. But at the same time, they run a business that every day we have to be there to run our businesses to make sure that we can make the dollars that it takes to fund this team and to get it out there and expose ourselves to marketing partners. So we absolutely work on a balance sheet. We just don't randomly go to races. We've even discussed the fact of do we, now that we've made some changes and we're kind of excited about it, do we add a race? It really doesn't work well for what we're trying to accomplish because we need a new car. We have so many ancillary things that these fans are not aware of. And we look at how do we take a gentleman like Aaron Brooks and give him the best opportunity to make us a winning team? Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening starting Monday after this event, straight through to the minute we test in Phoenix in the spring.
Well, you mentioned it there, Aaron Brooks, the new turner of the knobs on the Foley Lewis Top Fuel dragster. Look, I think Aaron is an outstanding pick. I saw him firsthand with the Ashley camp, and I've seen him with, the McIntyres and others. So definitely a outstanding pick with all that he's done recently and in the past. From your perspective, from Tim's perspective, why Aaron for the future of Foley Lewis Racing?
We started to struggle probably early summer, and so we knew that inevitably we would have to approach this conversation. First, before we get into Aaron Brooks, we had a great relationship with Doug Cook, unbelievable. We were his biggest fan for years and his biggest supporter. Anything he needed, we gave him, and obviously we wish him well in the future teams that he tunes with. He's a great guy. He's somebody easy to get along with. And he's definitely a great candidate for other teams that are out there. But we have the responsibility to our partners. And if we want to expand on that partnership with other teams or, get the people excited that are currently on board with us, the only way to do that is you got to turn wind lights on. You really have to. And so with that being the case, it was something that we started looking, and as we started looking, his name kept coming up. And I mean, you can't deny the fact of what he did with Justin Ashley last year. Won Pro Rookie of the Year, won his first race, an ET. His Justin's top ET, which is still his top ET, and so those are things that Justin had accomplished in his first year that most people dream about. And a lot of these part-time teams like us don't typically get to hit the 60s. That's a pretty lofty goal to go, 360s. And those are things that with the Torrences and Brittany and all these great cars out there, Clay's been knocking it dead lately. And these are quality cars. And if we want the ability, whether I don't care if it's 3 races a year or 14 races, whatever we do, we want to compete at the highest level. And the only way to do that is to really look at who's available. That obviously determines which is the best way to go. And we felt like that was a talented guy. I mean, a U.S. national, multi-time winner, he's got a pretty darn good resume. And then you sit there and say, one thing that was also appealing to me, and I think Tim himself also, was the fact that he was just not a tuner that had big team experience. he had now over the last couple of years had worked with some smaller teams, which to us was probably more valuable than his big team experience, because he definitely gets a couple of years of working with and understanding these teams have budgets, and these budgets are a little tighter than what maybe I'm used to working with, but he's done a great job. You look at what he's done with Artie Allen and McIntyre's and some of these cars, Greg Carrillo. These are cars that, they compete like us, part-time, even less than us. And it's not easy to be responsible for the outcome for that weekend on somebody who may have a few less dollars, few less parts, definitely less help, and a car that doesn't have as many runs. And that's not easy to do. So we looked at the whole picture, and we really do believe that taking this team to the next level, which we feel like he really can, his attention to detail, we made a couple phone calls and talked to some people and just trying to find out, is this really the right decision? And for the most part, never heard anything negative. And I tell you, we're definitely really excited about next year.
All right, move to Aaron. And in this search for finding a crew chief, I have heard the word out on the street is that there is a crew chief shortage, period. So is that the case out there in the pool? And if so, why is there that shortage right now in the fuel ranks?
I wouldn't say there's a shortage. I would probably disagree with that. I think there are some quality crew chiefs out there right now that are not performing at the level people would expect them to. It's not a bash on them. It's nothing like that. It's the fact that track prep is different than it usually is. Sometimes parts are evolving. There's a lot going on. And, the sport is always changing. And when you have a team like, Torrence setting the bar is set so high. It's such a great team. Probably the best team that ever competed in drag racing in Top Fuel Dragster. I know people would argue that because people have won more championships and all of that, but I do believe that you're going to find out if they keep racing for the next 5, 6, 7 years, they're going to be the winningest team ever in history in our category. So when that team is setting the bar, and you have David Grubnick right there, right behind them, and you have all of that, those teams are unbelievable. So, but at the same time, so when you have other teams out there with quality crew chiefs, no doubt, but they're trying to shoot for the stars because these are mega teams that are doing unbelievable. I don't think there's a crew chief shortage. In my opinion, I would almost think the opposite. I believe a guy like Aaron Brooks would never be available if in the event there were more teams out there. So I think that kind of fell into mine and Tim's hands on the fact that the lack of teams, that's the only advantage to the lack of teams, is there are talented people out there that are looking for an opportunity, and that's where we kind of fit in. A team that could run more races than maybe some other teams and could show the performance level. We take it very seriously. We'll give everybody the parts and pieces they need. So I think it was an opportunity for him. But if there were 2 or 3 more full-time teams out there, Aaron Brooks wouldn't have been available. And I think the teams that you're seeing struggle a little bit, they'll be fine. Next year, they're going to come around. They'll figure out where their problems are. And I think, NHRA Top Fuel next year is going to be pretty unbelievable. Even without the rumors that you hear, with the rumors, it's going to be really competitive. And if it's as competitive as I think it's going to be, we couldn't have made the decision at a better time, because everybody's going to need to step up their program to even try and qualify top half.
All right, Doug, we're going to take a commercial break. I can get a sip of water, so can you, or whatever you may be drinking tonight. And we'll come back. We'll dive into some fan questions. Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean. Doug, first question I've got for you from Stan is concerning Torrance's comments on the countdown. What do you think of the countdown? What's your personal thoughts on it?
I've never been a huge fan of it. I'm not a big fan of taking points away from somebody who earned them. But in the situation that we're in, when you have a team that is so stellar and qualifies for the countdown 3 or 4 races before anybody else does, I'm not sure that we're not really lucky that that is in position right now, because I'm not sure that that wouldn't be determined in Dallas or something like that, which may take away some of the excitement. But not that Foley Lewis would ever have the opportunity to do that, but I would be awful disappointed if I was 150, 200 points ahead and then ended up after Indy only being 20 points ahead. So, but, you know, that's something that I think almost needs to be there because of the differences between what some of the teams have financially and the ability for the quality level to be evened out. But if it was a perfect world, we would not have a countdown situation.
Top Fuel 173 asks, since these Facebook professionals think fuel racing is dying, let's hear from a driver and co-owner. Is fuel racing dying? You kind of alluded to that before we went to break, but your thoughts right now on the world of nitro?
Well, I mean, I hate to use the word dying. You know, that's that's a pretty bold statement. I mean, you know, is there less interest? Is there less partners to keep these teams funded? All of that, you can't deny that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Is our fan base down a little bit? You wouldn't know that by Maple Grove. That was an unbelievable race. You wouldn't know it by Gainesville. So some of these key tracks really just get great fan bases, and we do really well. But is it been reduced every year? Absolutely. And what's it going to be like when you look at, you know, guys like us who are getting a little bit older and less interest and less people entering the sport at a young age? So it is something that, you know, we have to be aware of. And I think, unfortunately, I do believe it will continue to reduce. But hopefully we can get a jolt in the arm. That's why I say less races, maybe a little bit bigger show, maybe a little bit of a different show. I don't know what that would look like, but we have to attract some young people in to start watching what we do and getting, and the young kids don't, seem to want to get their hands dirty like we used to when we were kids. So, but dying, no, but we need an injection of more fans, more sponsors, everything to try and help it start to go on the growth side again.
Yes, I really feel like this Carolina Nationals coming up this weekend will be a great measuring stick to where the NHRA is. Second race in the same market, even though it's separated from the spring. Well into college football season. Pro football is in town, and you've got a NASCAR race within 4 hours, which is one of the key events for NASCAR. So it's like I'm really looking at this weekend and going, this is going to tell us how we've done and what kind of footwork was done in Charlotte and so on to get people at that event. Are people going to buy an NHRA ticket, or are they going to wait for 2-3 weeks and go to the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway? That type of thing. And, what do you think about cooperation with some other racing motorsports bodies, like an epic weekend at Charlotte? Charlotte could do it and have all within one weekend, NHRA, IndyCar, and NASCAR, even IMSA, even dirt track racing, its own mini speed weeks. You think could egos ever come aside and all this come together and we all help motorsports at one time?
I mean, it would be an unbelievable event. It would be great for all of the sanctioning bodies to be able to do something like that, because I do think it would help our fan base. It would open NHRA drag racing up to people who are watching, different types of motorsports. And I think we would rate pretty good, to be honest with you. We have a pretty exciting sport here at NHRA. But I do think those are things that can be done. The downside is unfortunately, when you take all those sanctioning bodies, you put them together, there's a lot of politics involved with dates and locations and sponsors and all those things. But I do think it is something that should be looked at, because I think if we can make week-long events like that could just, fill those campgrounds again, and really generate some different eyes and everything. I think that would be a great idea. And I think those are things that we have to start thinking about. Nobody in motorsports is not seeing a reduction in their fan base, in their sponsorship. So we're all in the same boat. It's not drag racing alone. NASCAR's numbers are down, and we have to work together to try and figure out, how do we work marketing partners together, whatever we need to do to generate interest or return on investment for everybody, I think is a great idea.
Doug, let's dive into the most recent race, Maple Grove, Reading Nationals. Foley Lewis Racing was out. And give me a synopsis of the weekend before we dive into some details. I got some video, I've got some photos, and not the ones that I deleted and pulled back for the show. No, I've got the serious ones. But give me your thoughts on Reading Nationals performance itself, being back, 9/11, all those things, and what you felt leaving the picturesque Dutch country of Pennsylvania.
Love the race, love the location. We sucked in competition. The driver sucked. We were just terrible. It just, we do this because we want to be competitive. That's our whole goal. Myself and Tim want to put a good product out there and really do it. And we had some great sponsors out there. We have ProTech, we have, Premier Window Cleaning. We had all these people out there that were there to help us grow that. And it was a good experience as far as that. We had, as you mentioned earlier, we had big hospitality and great new partners and all of that. But at the same time, we want to be a car that is capable of really putting on a good show for our partners and for the fans. And we've just, I don't know, we've suffered. It was a weird run. The first run, Q1, a really weird run. We probably ran 77, 76, something like that. The chute came out at 300 feet, dragged it the whole way, and went 86. And and then we could never improve on that number. Next run we went out there and we smoked the tires on the next. We smoked the tires on Q3. So we just could never get the momentum going. And people don't understand is, to be successful during a race, every piece, every person involved, everything has to be perfect at every time for everything to match and run down this track at 300 plus miles an hour. So we didn't exactly, and it was a 9/11 tribute car that we had that we're still running this weekend. And, that's really important to us. So would we have liked to have been better? There shouldn't be, we shouldn't be qualifying 12 out of 13 cars. We need to step it up. And that's kind of, maybe it was a little bit of a wake up call for us to, kind of remind us that we have a long way to go. And we're gonna take what happened at Maple Grove and Norwalk, and we are going to roll into this weekend's race, and more importantly, over the winter, to bring out a car that's really going to kick some butt next year.
All right, I'm going to bring up the footage of round one, as agonizing as it might be. Folks, we're going to watch round one from the stands. I'm filming this for Foley Lewis Racing, and watch Doug as he's staging it. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments. I got some pictures because I think it's very interesting what you did in round one, and later on who came into the pits and chatted compared to other competitors later that day that people are still talking about. So we'll watch round one and we'll talk about what was going on there staging the car.
Countdown contender, Clay Milligan.
Yeah, 69 to 86. Wow, that's tough. That's tough. But you kept rolling and kept rolling. Talk to me about your thought process going into round one. I find it very interesting that the drag racing former instructor had these thought processes, but pulling some stuff out of the magician's bag to try to get an advantage. But yeah, talk me through round one.
Well, so I'm never a guy who plays games. I don't believe in it. Really don't think we should need it. We're a team that I feel is quality, and you shouldn't have to. But when you have, as much as almost 2/10 between you and your opponent first round, you have to sit there and try and create the ability to hopefully find an equalizer. So I attempted to go in there, put it in, and then roll in deep in an attempt to kind of throw Clay off. He's really good on the tree, and lately I'm not. And so with that the case, I tried to do that. The downside is I've literally never intentionally gone deep, possibly my entire career, and was not quick enough to actually do it. While it happened, the tree came down. Clay definitely, the concept worked because he went to something on the tree, but the whole attempt doesn't work if you still leave after your opponent. So it was a good idea, a good attempt, bad outcome, and I mean, you see, we only went 386, but we went 386 at 200 and something mile an hour. That's because when you are that far different in ET and in qualifying, my job is as a team owner and driver is to make sure that we don't do damage to a motor or to a car in a race that we don't have a chance to win. And I saw Clay cruising along out there. He was a car and a half, if not more, ahead of me. So we back off the throttle and lick our wounds, pack up our stuff, and head to Charlotte.
Now, later on, Clay comes into the pit, and y'all have, I think a lot of people would suspect that you wouldn't have a civil chat, but you had a very civil chat from everything I saw. Even though I could find the photo, that makes it look like 1,000 words were said negatively. But, you and Clay are old IHRA competitors and rivals, Ethan. I mean, you gave Clay heck of a run back in the day when he was ripping off win and championships in the IHRA. But, here's you and Clay in the pits, and here's another shot. And it was interesting what y'all began chatting on. It wasn't just what happened. It also went to how his throttle mechanism looks or is apparently. So talk to me about why the chat you two had was different compared to some funny car competitors from the weekend, for example.
Well, neither one of our cars say Snap-on on it, so that makes that easier. But, yes, I just probably caused a problem for myself, but that's okay. First of all, me and Clay, I have a lot of respect for Clay. You're not going to find a nicer guy out there. He's just a great competitor, a great person. And me and him have butted heads for years as far in competition. But he is literally the type of guy who would give you a shirt off his back. And, so there's a situation where I openly tell you 5 minutes ago that I was trying to screw him up on the tree in an attempt to try and make up a huge qualifying difference. But, Clay is not that type of guy, first of all. Secondly, we are friends. He understands I have a job. I understand he has a job. He did his job 10 times better than I did, and they're a faster car right now. But we can be civil. We can discuss it through. He came, we discussed the tree, we discussed what happened. I was open with him, point blank. Listen, just trying to give us a little bit of an edge. And, not everything has to be, an argument over, this type of stuff. I don't need TV time that bad, neither does Clay. But, for us, it's really just about, we have a lot of respect for each other. We both know that we both have good cars and the capabilities of beating each other on any day. And, but it was more of just a professional conversation, a friendly conversation between two drivers trying to figure out. He was a little concerned because he was going into second round against the best lever in the class. So I think he wanted to kind of get his head around, hey, what was your thoughts and all of that, building a little confidence for him going into second round against a great lever. And me trying to sit there and say, hey, listen, what can I benefit as far as, trying to figure out how do I, as the driver of the Foley Lewis team, kind of get a little better at what I do and a little bit more focus. And Clay's a great guy to ask questions to because he's one of the most consistent drivers out there.
So, yes, no TV time on what happened with you two. There was obviously TV time with JR, Todd, and Cruz later on in the day. So, Doug, I think you can give interesting perspective on the matter. I keep saying, and I've had a lot of people agree with me, that, there's no unwritten rules in drag racing, and we don't need unwritten rules in drag racing. We don't need to be like baseball and, you can't do this, even though it technically is allowed. But how did you teach the games when you were teaching? Did you even explore them? And why do you think? Is it just me, or it seems like people have become far more sensitive about it recently than ever before? I don't remember these conversations happening when I was a kid or a teenager, and now it's like you flickered the bulb. Wait, what's going on?
I don't think it's anything to ever be discussed. Like I said, I don't know if it's being done for TV time. I don't know what it's being done for. I don't think it's necessary personally. If a guy wants to go in deep, he's allowed to go in deep. Anybody who approaches the tree knows the rules, which is anybody can go deep anytime they want. They can do it at any time they want. As a professional, you should be able to focus on your pre-stage and stage and your side of the tree and focus on just doing what you do. And if the person gets in your head, maybe good for them. I don't know. But I don't know that I do agree with you. Back in the day, you didn't have, first of all, you didn't have the bickering about what somebody did. And actually back in the day, if somebody was pissed off, they just beat each other up. They didn't yell at each other. So, but I do think it's gone a little far. If there's almost no reason to go to the guy. You already know it's legal. So why are you even approaching him on why he did it? He did it because he was trying to get an advantage, and maybe he did or maybe he didn't. But either way, it's allowed. So leave it alone.
That's my thoughts. I mean, it's in the rule book. Can't we just it's either accept it or lobby for the NHRA to go no deep stage. I mean, just, there are some forms of drag racing that you can't do it. I get that.
Yeah, but in my opinion, I mean, I think it's the other way around. I think you should be mandatory to go deep once out of every 5 runs for every driver. Okay. Because, just because of the fact that we don't want to become a mundane sport. Our parts are so good. Our crew chiefs are good. I mean, we're good all the way around. We all teams have money, even the smaller teams, they have money. Okay. It's an expensive sport. So if they're there, they have some money. So if that's the case, somebody going deep or a burn down or any of that stuff's exciting. Make it fun. Okay. I mean, people say, oh, well, pro stock isn't very exciting, because they go in shallow, obviously they're in shallow as much as they can because they're worried about ET, which, I mean, all cars are. But what I'm saying is, you'll never see a pro stock car go deep or do some of these things, but if we want to generate excitement for our sport, burn downs, going in deep, doing whatever the hell you can to win around, I'm a fan of it. Let's just, just don't do it. Listen to everybody. Don't do it the way I do it. Okay. Because it'll never work. Okay. So just, for a guy who's probably taught more people in this country how to drive, I've never taught somebody how to go deep. And now you know why I never taught you to do that.
Yeah, I look back on, so when I'm filming, I'm looking through this little iPort, so I can't really tell all the detail when I look things post. And when I looked at it post, I'm like, he just kept rolling and rolling. You had like the first rolling start in drag racing I think I've ever seen, Doug.
My clutch guy almost had a heart attack because he thought maybe he didn't, bleed the brakes or he had the clutch wrong or whatever. He was like, "Oh my God, I hope I didn't kill that for you." I said, "No, don't worry about it. I take all the credit for that disaster."
Well, I agree with you. I feel like somewhere this sport that had some rough and tumble guys and some great characters, at least with the starting line and maybe even at the top end, we've become almost like golf. And it's like, look, I get it. We're professional. You all are professional drag racers, but if it's within the rules and it's there for the taking, do it every now and then. And the sport does need it. I mean, you mentioned the burn down or the staging duel. That was 4 or 5 weeks ago, and people still bring it up from the pro stock ranks. I mean, they're exciting.
We have to have these things in there, and I don't think they should shut them off. I think you should let them damn cars sit there until somebody runs out of fuel. Okay? I don't care. Just let the pair behind them know, you know what? Why don't you guys go get a hot dog and a soda and just let them go. Okay? Because I guarantee in minute 3, 4, and 5, the crowd's going to be going wild, and so I have absolutely no problem with it. It is what it is. The sport is in need of trying to generate excitement. Not that top fuel cars aren't exciting, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like I said, the parts and pieces that made these cars good. 90% of the time, they're going to make it down the track. Okay, you look at a Billy Torrence, Doug Coletta in U.S. Nationals. That's a beautiful pair right there. Those guys smoking the tires and fighting their way to the finish line. Now that's exciting. And we need as much of that as possible so it doesn't become mundane and, like you said, watching just another golf stroke.
Right. And, look, I'm not one that is like, we need to have a pedal fest every round, but I remember Indy and also the round with Steve and Ashley. People stand up in those moments. And, the Doug Coletta and the Billy Torrence run at Indy is something that's going to be replayed for years to come, even though there was at some point of the day the fastest run side by side for the weekend. And as I'm saying that, I can't tell you what that run was, because as perfect as that might have been for that weekend, it wasn't memorable.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And, when you look at, when you watch Facebook, when, Eddie Hill and Bernstein and Garlitz and all these guys were out there, you got to realize the technology of the cars themselves was different. They weren't in the wind tunnel. They weren't doing this. They weren't doing that. The track prep was different. We didn't have rotators. We didn't have any of that stuff, so there was more exciting things that happened then just because the sport hadn't advanced as much as it has now. So with the fact that we have all quality stuff, I don't think you ever turn your back on the ability to it just make the fan excited and make them feel part of it. And just, I think that stuff is important. And like I said, I'm not sure that we shouldn't be creating some sort of way to make it more exciting. I know the competitors may be a little against it, but we talked about I don't even remember who I was talking to, but reversing the run order, and giving the ability for the better cars to run maybe some of the tougher cars, and giving so it's all different types of things that you can do. I'm not, qualifying is really important, and I do think that the faster cars should run the slower cars, but I do think at times, the diversity in the sport, not every team has that kind of money and can keep up with those ETs and everything. So, but I do believe anything we can bring in that's exciting and generate fans and get the younger generation to come out and watch what we're doing and be excited about what we're doing is something we should be looking at.
All right, we're looking at right now going into the Carolina Nationals this weekend. They'll be firing up tomorrow. I'm looking forward to being at the track myself. So, going into this event, new tuner, last race of the year for Foley Lewis Racing. What do you want to have on the back end accomplished of this particular weekend of racing?
Well, I think we have to be, first of all, reasonable on our expectations. This was not something that was supposed to happen this weekend. It got accelerated by 4 or 5 days. This was something that was, scheduled for the off season. So, Aaron didn't even know he was tuning this car until Monday night. So we have to be reasonable, give him an opportunity. He's been out there. I'm sure they're still at the track right now. When me and Tim left him several hours ago, his response was, "I may be here all night." So, but he's that type of guy. His attention to detail, we discussed it in depth, making sure we, again, had reasonable expectations of what could be done with 4-day notice. Let's work through some of the clutch stuff. And myself and Jeff were in the shop last night cutting discs and building packs to what his liking was. And we have, Chris went through all the clutch stuff in the last 48 hours and made sure that everything was exactly where it needed to be and that we were starting at square one with what they thought was a good baseline start. We went through all the heads. We have different people helping us out, trying to get all the stuff prepared for the weekend. So I think just a good, solid weekend. Go out, give Aaron some time to work with the guys, our parts, our pieces, our tractor trailer, all of our equipment. Make the changes that are considered low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff that can be done in a couple of hours, and just kind of go from there. And if we can go down the track, A to B, learn a little bit, get prepared, start working on our list of what needs to be done for us to be a better team, and just go from there. That would be exciting. I do think there's a possibility with him and some of the people that are putting their best foot forward to give us a hand. It wouldn't surprise me if this thing ran pretty good, but I don't want to go into it with those expectations. I don't want to put any additional pressure on them. I just want to thank them for stepping up so quickly to help us. I also want to give a shout out to Artie Allen. Okay, that was a team there that was, Aaron came to town to tune his car and help him, and Artie was gracious in being able to share him for the weekend and understanding with the situation we were in. And Artie is a true sportsman. We've been friends for years, to the point of going back to running our alcohol cars together when me, him, and Tim ran together. And just a class act, great family, and no negative feedback. From what I understand, I haven't spoken to him personally. I will in the morning, but from what I understand, he was, hey, listen, you know what? If it helps the sport and helps Doug out, and we need more racers like that who understand we were in a bind, and he was gracious enough to help us out.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. We're looking forward to the NHRA Carolina Nationals, sponsored by DeWalt. Man, what do you think about DeWalt stepping up and being a banner sponsor? I don't think they've ever been involved in NHRA drag racing. It's always been the classic Mac Tools, Snap-on, Cornwell, and DeWalt stepping up. It's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's great to see it. I mean, as we've seen a transition in the mechanical side over the last 5 years of everybody, kind of switching over to a lot of power tools and all of that. I mean, when we started, everything was air operated with our entire rig, and right now, I think we use air for mixing fuel and a couple other little things, but for the most part, power tools, battery operated power tools are the big thing right now. In our entire trailer, we take the car completely apart off of electric stuff. And so, those companies have the ability to go ahead and step up and be part of our sport. And, we have the opportunity as, a sport to be able to expose, that great company out there. I mean, it's an opportunity for all of us, not just the people who are sponsored by them.
Yes, if there's a motorsport that I think tools need to be involved in and sponsoring, as many have done for so many years, it's definitely NHRA drag racing, with how visible the tools are in the hands of the craftsmen that work and tune on these machines. So it definitely makes sense. Well, Doug, look, I've got one more question for you. It's coming in from Everything Nitro. Guys, you can follow and subscribe to him on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook as well. He says, or he asks, what brought the MMR and Team Foley together? Great duo. So look, I encountered you because you were a Strutmaster's car, and I was Chip Lofton's guy to kind of give some extra coverage to all the Strutmaster cars. So I remember walking up to you at Arizona the first time and like, hey, I'm Lee, and I do this, I do that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And you were one of the easier ones, obviously, to do interviews with. There were others, even though they were Strutmasters. They were a bit challenging. But from that to actually being on the team, like, what's the steps? Like, there had to be something to say for Doug and Tim and all that. We need to give Lee a shot. So what? I think that's what Everything Nitro is getting at. So what's those steps through from Arizona and all those interviews, race after race, to right now? And at Charlotte, I'll be on the line filming for Foley Lewis and interviewing you. And folks, yes, there will be a bloopers video at the end of the year showing you all that I have filmed in a lighthearted manner with Doug.
Yes, he absolutely will release that, I'm sure. Okay. There will be a bloopers video. Unfortunately, for all the fans out there, it's going to be about an hour and a half long. So, you may want to grab a sandwich. Oh, by the way, while I'm doing this interview, my wife is cooking brownies for you, which we all know that you're not, you say you don't eat carbs and all of that stuff. And
I've been eating a lot of carbs here lately.
Oh, now she's making potato salad too. So she's cooking.
Awesome.
All of this stuff is being cooked, so we could, which could be part of the reason maybe our car doesn't run so fast, because we're eating all this crap. But so now, first of all, I mean, the relationship with you and Strutmasters and Vita C. First, shout out to Chip. Gives a lot of opportunities to smaller teams, and we need more people like him who give us. He was our first sponsor back after we returned back to Top Fuel Racing in 2019, and I had to get licensed and all of that. I met him out in Vegas, and he's a gentleman, and we appreciate everything he's done for us, and hope to continue. But you were part of his family, and we got to meet you. We were new back to the scene. Phoenix was my first race back in the seat after God knows how long, 10 years. But so we knew you were part of that family. We were searching somebody out who would possibly help us grow the team. And, yes, you will have to pay me for saying this, but you've done a great job. But your abilities to help us grow, your desire to look at different things that may expose the team to potential marketing partners and all of that. You're definitely not a, what do you call it? A straight out of the box type of guy. You have different thought processes, and I think an out of the box guy is kind of somebody we need right now, because we're a team that needs exposure. We're a team that needs the ability to be out there. We don't even know where we need to be, because right now you just need to expose yourself to a lot of people and hope that one or two or three people. By the way, let me give a shout out. Griffin Insurance is on board this weekend. It's our first time with them. We're excited. It's a partnership with Levitt's, and so we're really excited to be part of them and working with them. We really feel like we'll be able to supply them a lot of B2B. I know I'm getting off track for a second, but I need to make sure this is said. And the B2B side's a big portion of where we find our relationships. And we truly believe that myself and Guy and you and everybody together is going to work hard to make sure that we can find them some relationships out there to generate some interest, some accounts, which will in turn help the team continue competing. But, to answer your question, I think myself and Tim look to just like we want sponsors and partners to give us an opportunity. We felt it was important to give guys like yourself who are entering the sport an opportunity to grow your brand, do all the things you do. And, you're a guy who, I don't know how you do it. You like the Energizer Bunny. I don't have as much energy as you, but two shows a week, and you have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different sanctioning bodies. So you definitely do your homework. You're doing videos, you're doing promos. I mean, you're on it, and we have a lot of respect for what you've done for our team, and a tremendous amount of confidence in what you're going to help us do in taking this team next year to a totally different level.
All right, there you go, everything Nitro. And look, Doug, appreciate that. And look, I really think like Protex and Premier window cleaning on the car, like Protex, like, dude, that's some high level construction. They build laboratories, like biological stuff, like Hot Zone, and like that's cool. That's not just building a house. No, like they're housing, like building things that house like dangerous stuff. I mean, that's cool. And then Premier window cleaning, we're talking about people who clean high-rise buildings. Like, I'm not doing that anytime soon. No.
Yeah, it's a little weird when the guy who hangs off a building comes up to you and says, "Why do you drive this car?"
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, so you have a half-inch rope between you and 300 foot of concrete down there right below you, and you're wondering why I drive this car. Okay? Something tells me that people would want to insure me quicker than they want to insure him. So,
right.
Even though I'm sure that's one of the people we're going to be bringing to Griffin Insurance, and Griffin will say, no, not them.
Not that, yeah, right, not them.
Don't bring me them, please.
Not them. Well, I'm definitely, they might say no to the boat dock company working on water too. I mean, you never know. They might be like, nope, drowning, not being nowhere near that. Nope.
But the B2B side is important to us, and that's how all those relationships happen. We get a group of people like me, you, Guy, Tim, everybody, and we sit down, and I mean, you'll attest to this. We sit down on Friday mornings, and now that we don't run until dark 30 on Fridays now, with that the case, we use Fridays while the guys are prepping the car and parts and pieces and all that, and my wife is cooking up all the food, so we can get larger than we are. We sit there and try and figure out, how do we bring in more partners? What relationships do you have? Which ones do I have? And that's what allows us to expand this team and expand our schedule next year.
And look, shout out to Sheila. She does a great job cooking for everybody. And we eat well over there at Foley Lewis Racing. I think like every Friday night's like steak night, and then it's hamburgers the next day. And yeah, it's good. It was better than lasagna from somewhere else.
Yeah. We won't say that. It just has three letters.
So she did a good job. She does a good job.
We moved steak to Saturday night because the NHRA schedule moved steak night, because we she cooks some pretty darn good steaks. And when you run at 8:00 at night, you're like, I don't know, do we want to really give steak and potatoes to the team prior? Oh, filet mignon this week. Imagine this. Do we really want to give that to the guys before we go to starting line? So we are, what are we having Friday night? Street tacos Friday night, filet mignon Saturday night. And I don't know what we're doing Sunday, but all I care about Sunday right now is going some rounds and showing our partners and showing the world that Aaron Brooks was the right decision, and taking that momentum into 2022.
Well, man, look, thank you for being on the show. I know you got a busy lineup of PR stuff. I'm going to try to keep you busy anyway and keep you talking and keep you out in front of folks. But as far as I know, we got you scheduled for Tuesday night coming up and the Competition Plus Power Hour as well. And I'll try to dig deep and have a few other questions for you, but I'm sure my partner over there, Sam, will have some great questions for you. And hopefully we've got some great things to talk about post Carolina Nationals. Doug, thank you again for coming on, and man, look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Absolutely. For all you people out there, come out and watch us this weekend, and let's have some fun. Come by and see us.
Thank you, Doug.
Take care.
All right, folks, that was Doug Foley, driver of the Foley Lewis Top Fuel Dragster. We'll be seeing him tomorrow. He'll be in competition this weekend of the NHRA Carolina Nationals. Definitely get out to the track. I'm going to wrap the show up. Let me go through a few more fan questions that came through and see if I can get you any answers. Your masked friend asked, will you be at VMP this weekend? I will not. I'll be at the Carolina Nationals. I work for Foley Lewis Racing, so I will be there. Now, you did mention about getting elimination coverage. Man, look, go talk to Tyler Crossno and go talk to Tommy Franklin himself, possibly, and see if you can get some of those media credentials or get what you can, and we'll look at what you get. I'm more than willing to entertain that. Let's see what happens. Be able to use some stuff on the show, possibly, whatever. SWFL Motorsports fan, we are thankful for MMR and all that he does for drag racing. It's great to have all of these interviews with drivers, etc. Sam, Bobby, Jeff, also for what they do. Also, yes, my co-host on the Competition Plus Power Hour, Slammin' Sam. You can follow him, Outlaw Performance EMT, or Slammin' Sam on Facebook and Twitter. Bobby Bennett, man, 22 years. I believe it was yesterday or either today. Yesterday, I think. 22 years for CompetitionPlus.com. Congratulations to him. And Jeff Arend on the Power Hour does give us some great insight as the pit insider. It is good to have him on board. But I appreciate you saying thank you. It has come a long way in a short amount of time, and I thank the Lord for that. I am a believer in a God, and I believe it is the Lord Jesus Christ, and I believe in providence. And I've worked hard, but I've come a long way because of people like Chip Lofton and the man that we just had on the show, Doug Foley. It does take people giving you a shot and giving you an opportunity. And I do think differently than some of my other media counterparts. I think there is more out there on the table for teams to expose themselves to potential sponsors, to their fans, and interaction than than what they're doing. If you go look right now at the Foley Lewis social media platforms and look at other social media platforms, I would dare say that there's more content for a team that's even part-time than there is for those that are full-time. And I hope that next year, and from everything I understand, we're definitely looking at even more opportunities for more content to go out and to be connected with fans. And I'm hoping that this continues to grow. I'm hoping that the Competition Plus Power Hour continues to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very humbling. You know, at Maple Grove, I was talking with Brian Loans. Like, Brian knows who I am. I get to talk to him. That's pretty cool. And he's a pretty cool dude too. Himself. And as he is talking, I'm talking, here comes Glenn Cromwell, president of NHRA, and he's walking on, but as he walks on, he stops, he shakes my hand, continues to walk on. And then after that meeting that he had with Tim Lewis and Doug Foley in the pits, I'm there waiting for warm-up. The car was right there near to be warmed up, and he comes out of the trailer and hollers, sees me, he walks up, he's like, you do this too? I didn't realize you worked with the teams. And I was like, yeah, I work with Doug Foley. I try to help a few other teams out. And it's fascinating. 2 years ago, going to the Southern Nationals, taking a camera, never had a driver interview whatsoever. and get my first interview with Andy Rawlings in Pro Stock Motorcycle to the president of the NHRA knows who I am. And I'm not saying I'm a guy who deserves it. I am saying I'm a guy that has worked to get to that point. And I hope to continue to bring you great content right here on Monday Morning Racer and Between the Slicks, and the other videos that will come out, whether it's dirt track racing, drag racing, asphalt racing. I still haven't got water racing in. I was watching the Reno Air races earlier today. I would love to be able to do that. But many of you know that the Monday Morning Racer platform is about all motorsports, but I have a special place for drag racing. And I hope that this show continues to grow. You all help me help it grow by hitting that share button, hitting that like button, and telling folks about it. And I will continue to try to get great guests. And this show is not just about drivers, and it's not just about the big names. I appreciate the big names of the sport, but I think there are stories out there with the Doug Foleys, with the Joe Morrisons, with the Bobby Bodys, with the Dale Creasy's, with the Richie Stevens Juniors and Beaver Motorsport and John Gadosh and those type of individuals. I think there's stories with crew members like Austin and Greg Lynn and many others. I think there's stories from the general manager perspective. And I think there's stories from the promoter perspective. I think there's stories from the photographers, from all the other people in media. There's more stories out there than just the product you see in drag racing. And that's what I hope that we can bring right here from PDRA to Southeast Gassers Association to NHRA Drag Racing to Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association to Midwest Drag Racing Series, whatever it may be, to bring those stories. Another comments. Death Trap Hot Rod says another great one, Lee. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Top Fuel 173. If NHRA wants to attract Gen Z people like myself, more social media, there's a reason I follow all these shows. You're right, man. And look, the NHRA does notice. I know from Elon Werner and Bobby Bennett that the president of NHRA, he's like aware of the Competition Plus Power Hour, and he likes what he sees, and he is glad there's midweek content. And I'm glad what Wes Buck is doing now, and that show has evolved and it has expanded. So yeah, man, look, there's more content now than ever, and I hope it continues to grow. Death Trap Hot Rod says, still remember sitting with you at the Door Slammer Nationals. You're a good guy, and you worked it hard. Hey, remember that myself, Death Trap Hot Rods, and cannot wait to be back down there in Florida for the third edition of the World Door Slammer Nationals. I'm sure it's going to be happening. I'm looking forward to it. Folks, I'm going to shut the show down, but you can still hear from me. I'm going to hop over live to American Hot Rod Entertainment. He has a live recap, rehash, and rewatch of the 1989 Keystone Nationals, Reading, Pennsylvania, Maple Grove. We're going to take a look at that. I'm going to go hop over there live right now and watch a race that I've watched a lot and reminisce and enjoy it. Thank you for watching Between the Slicks. We'll be back right here next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No clue who I have got, but we'll have a good guest either way. Thank you, guys and ladies, if you're watching out there. God bless and keep the pedal to the metal.